You've done an incredible job in a short period of time of saving the Pac-12 conference, right? I mean, to put it bluntly, and I'm not sure that's how you would describe it, but my first question is, when you became the commissioner of the Pac-12, I mean, just unprecedented times, had to figure out what the path forward was. Did you, when you took the job, did you kind of view yourself as the person that could save the conference? Was that in your mind at the time?
I get asked that question a lot, and if you go back, I think I was hired in February, almost a year ago at this point, and at that time, I felt like I had two jobs to do. The first one was to really kind of transition the existing league, right? Because when I was hired in February, we still had several months left with all 12 members. And it was really important to me that all of our student athletes continued to have a great experience as we wound things down with the existing members. But the biggest job that I had when I was hired was to find a path forward for Oregon State and Washington State. And I reiterated that often because a lot of people would say to me, oh, you were hired to rebuild the Pac-12. And my response would always be, no, I was hired to find a path forward for Oregon State and Washington State. And it wasn't a foregone conclusion that a rebuild was going to be that path. And so, obviously we spent several months pursuing different scenarios and exploring different options that would best position them for the future. And I would say I was thrilled when that path forward ended up being a rebuild of the Pac-12.
I'm fascinated just in the leadership lessons in your past year leading the conference. Take me inside like the first few days when you became the commissioner. Like what were the immediate things that you said, we have to do this right away, or we have to implement this right away? Like, was there anything you had on your agenda, like in the first week or so on the job?
Well, I think it goes back to, my earlier answer. There were really three things that were front of mind for me immediately. First and foremost, it was, I did not want our existing student athletes to feel any change or feel any disruption. And, we had 7,000 student athletes that were under the Pac-12 umbrella at the time. I think we still had 15 conference championships left to run for the remainder of the academic year. And it was really, really important to me that despite the fact that we were in a period of transformational change with 10 schools transitioning out, I didn't want the student athletes to feel anything different. And I wanted them, for those student athletes that were departing the Pac-12, to leave feeling really proud to be part of our conference and have a great experience as they were transitioning. So that was certainly a priority. Another priority was the team, the staff. And that's not something that gets talked a lot about amidst all of this, but as we were transitioning the league, we were also transitioning hundreds of incredibly talented, dedicated staff, many of whom had been with the conference for 3 decades. So it was important to me immediately that I support and care and transition those people with dignity and care. But then most importantly, the Oregon State and Washington State, like I needed to jump in right away. And I already had relationships with those athletic directors and those coaches, but really establish a rapport and a connection and alignment with those two university presidents so that we could start to talk about what's in front of us and what those scenarios might be and what their vision is for their programs.
And I'm sure part of your mindset early on, it's only been a year, right? But early on in your tenure was probably to just have to give some hope to everybody, right? In the conference. There was a period, again, I'm an East Coast guy, so I am not as tied into the West Coast and Pac-12 as people are that live out there, but there was a perception, at least on the East Coast for a while, as I cover college football closely, like Pac-12's gone, it ain't coming back, and you revived it. But I'm sure was part of your first few months just like, it's time to give some hope to the two league members and what the future could actually look like, and that there is a path forward here.
100%. And it was critically important that the presidents, the athletic directors, all of us together were aligned around what we wanted that future to look like, regardless of the fact that we didn't really know what path was going to pan out. They were relying on me to fight on their behalf, advocate on their behalf, and make sure that that future was possible and was in alignment with the aspirations that they have for their programs, given that they've competed at the Power 5 level and competed at the highest level for their entire history. So yeah, hope was part of it, and enthusiasm was part of it, and I think that part of it was really great, to go to those two campuses and talk to student athletes and talk to coaches and give them a level of assurance that I was in the foxhole with them, advocating on their behalf, and giving them hope. It was critically important at that time.